Okay, shalom, shalom. Kwam Yasha'Allah, Koholoimla, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakahakwadash, double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who do well, and that by the Spirit taught us this beautiful truth. And just want to say the water to all the H.I.M and Akwaf that's out here sincerely keeping the laws, the statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai to the best of their ability. This is Yahanan Nawaf, just coming at you with another quick lesson, praying that it's edifying by the Spirit. And I asked Chat GPT. Of course, a lot of the brothers been using this as a tool. It can be biased, because it will give you a lot of information that so-called white people have already created and pushed on the people anyway. A lot of pseudoscience. But, sometimes you have to corner Chat GPT. Like if you ask it a question and you have to ask a follow-up question and then possibly another follow-up question. And then it'll kind of, get down to the boogie of what the truth is. But I just asked this one simple question, which I could have went on further with it. But I asked, what race of people commit the most heinous crimes in America? And it says that's a heavy and complicated question. The idea of one race committing the most heinous crimes can be misleading because crime in America is shaped much more by poverty, inequality, and opportunity than by race itself, right? So that's, Chat GPT is kind of like trying to throw you for a loop, so to speak. That's why I say you got to kind of corner it. But it says a few key points to keep it factual and fair. That's what we want. We want factual and fair. So, they could have kept the first paragraph there. Heinous crimes like murder, serial killings, mass shootings, child abuse, terrorism, etc. are not committed by one racial group alone. Every race has individuals who commit terrible crimes. That's true. That's true, because you do have people that do wicked shit, but the scriptures talks about there's a wicked race of people, and that's Esau, Edom, man, the so-called white race. So it goes on to say, mass shootings and domestic terrorism in the U.S. are overwhelmingly carried out by who? White men. And they're not white. They're actually pinkish to reddish in color. So it could have just got straight to the point, got to the boogie, and just said that. It says data from the FBI and other databases show that most mass shooters are white males. And they get women, they women do that shit too. Serial killers is next on the list. Historically, the majority of American serial killers have been white men. Again, they're not white. They're pinkish to reddish in color. Okay, so now it gets to the street level violent crime, like homicides, robbery, and gang violence. These disproportionately committed in impoverished communities, which often overlap with black and Latino neighborhoods due to the systematic inequalities. Okay, so who's, has them in this systematic equality spot though? The so-called white man. And then we know that this is just proof that we are the Israelites, because you're going into Deuteronomy chapter 28. One of those curses, is us being evil towards our brethren. But Esau, he systematically sets up systems to keep Jake, fighting and scrapping with each other. He causes discord among brethren. It says segregation, redlining, lack of resources, policing practices. Who's in charge of all that? Who's in charge of the segregation, the redlining, lack of resources? The so-called white man. So he's creating the actual problem that this Chat GPT is actually saying when it comes to street level violent crime, right? It says that doesn't mean race is the cause. It's a socio-economic conditions. Who created the socio-economic conditions? Esau, man. Matter of fact, let me get Job 9:24, because he's in control of everything. He's in control of the finances. He's in control of, telling the woman, okay, we'll give you food stamps, Section 8, this, that, and the third, if you get rid of the man out of the home. And then you had this Washington, D.C. article about the fatherless, the black fathers have pretty much let the city down. Like, what the fuck is you talking about? No, the so-called white man created a system where these women can get these food stamps, get this Section 8, and just live their lives as hoes, have multiple baby daddies, and bringing these kids up by themselves. The more kids they have, the more food stamps they get, the more cash assistance they get. And it's just an ongoing thing, but that was set up systematically. And it's actual documentaries going off into that from back in the 70s, where they was actually doing the data and statistics on what what kind of problems some shit like that would cause. And you had so-called black women, they was pretty much like, Some of them, yeah, they kind of done it because of, just wanting to just, it was like a free ride. But a lot of those women, they kind of done it because they felt like it was better that, she'd be able to, pretty much overall be able to take care of the kids, because we were so impoverished around those particular times when it first came into play. But it's just like Eve, she done took that particular thing on, and she has glorified it, man. She has made that shit like a weapon against the men. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not thinking about it from, back in the days when, okay, they was already going hungry. They was already impoverished. They was already, living out of cars or whatever the case may have been. When that opportunity came along, a lot of the men was even like, well, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and do that. You know what I'm saying? I'll do my own thing. You know what I'm saying? But I'll be dropping by. It was more of a family thing still going on, but it just got to a point after generation to generation to generation, because Esau knew what he was doing when he set that up, man. Job 9:24. We're not ignorant of Satan's devices, man. When you come into this truth, the Lord is going to show you your enemy. He's going to show you how he operates. Because a lot of people don't even think on these types of questions, man. Job 9:24 says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, wherein who is he? He's in control of the finances. He's in control of, the curriculum for your children. You know what I'm saying? Right now, they're trying to get rid of the fact that, they enslaved your ass. They want to teach our children that, you know what I'm saying, everything was all good back then. So as the generations goes on, it's just, now you got a group of so-called black people, Hispanics and Native Americans, that don't even know that they were ever in slavery. This would be his goal if he lasted long enough. And then who did he give you? He gave you so-called white Jesus. He covered the main faces of the judges, the Father, Yahweh, which is the true name of the Father, the Most High, which means he exists, or the existing one. He gave you a white God. He beat white Jesus into you, which the Lord's name is not Jesus. His name is Yahweh Shai. So he covered the faces of the main judges, the Father and the Son. He don't want you to know that the Lord looked like you. And see, all this stuff is starting to come to light, man. And America's falling real bad, man, because Esau is looking real terrible on the world stage right now. People starting to call him out, right to their damn faces, man. Before, Jake couldn't say nothing. You couldn't even look this man in the eye. That lets you know how far his kingdom done fell anyway. You know what I'm saying? That, you're able to deal with his women. Here you go, your woman out in public with a nigga. Back in the days, you would have strung that nigga up for just even looking up at her. But now all of a sudden she's riding rod out in public, laughing and giggling with him with little chocolate babies, man. So they let you know that this man's kingdom is falling. But let's go back to the hookup. It wasn't too much more on it. Just wanted to point out the fact that, with the street violence part, but it's saying that it's driven by systematic inequality, and Esau is in control of that systematic inequality. Now it goes on to corporate and large-scale corruption, exploitation, mostly white men in power. They're the ones that's embezzling billions and get to, be on house arrest. You know what I'm saying? In their damn, $1 billion mansion or on a fucking yacht somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Where they don't, fucked up your life savings. They don't get no time. And the scripture talks about how, let's get this in Psalms. Chapter 73, let me start at verse 3. It says, for I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. They're not in trouble like how we are. So they can, 11:44 on the screen. But yeah, they can get in trouble, or they can do the most heinous shit, and they'll get less time than Jake would for doing, something simple. Because this is their kingdom. Therefore, pride compasses them about as a chain. Violence covereth them as a garment. These are very violent people. Dealing with Esau, that's why the scripture says to never trust thine enemy, man. Dealing with Esau is like, there's that one scripture that talks about he that meddleth with another man's strife is like grabbing a dog by the ears. Just dealing with Esau is like running up and grabbing a lion by the damn ears, man. He's not to be trusted. Verse 6 again, it says, therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain. Violence covereth them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak lawfully. That's like this guy Trump. He's sending out lawyers, to scout these Smithsonians, these museums throughout America. You know what I'm saying? Anything that's got to do with niggas being in slavery, you know, he's trying to eradicate that. He wants to get rid of all that shit. You know? And this is the way that they are. Most violent people on the planet, man, trying to tell you that you're violent. Let me see, what else did it say? Okay, so it says, in short, this is the summary. No single race has a monopoly on evil. Crime in America reflects who has power. Well, who has power? It says who has poverty and how the system treats different communities. Well, we know how the system treats so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Let me see. Do you want me to pull up the official FBI and DOJ crime data by rate? Yeah, hell yeah. Let me put that in. Yes, please. Let's get that. Oh, shit. Let's get that data. Let's check out this data. Arrest for violent crime, 2023. According to FBI data aggravated by Beautify data, total violent crime, the rest, all ages, damn near 400,000. 375,359. White, 53.5% of that shit. 200,871 people committed these crimes that was white, man. Now it says black or African American. So what's going on with these two things here? Because we're not black and we're not African Americans. But it says that it's 42.6%. Then you got Asians on the list that supposedly committed 1.9%. Then you have American Indians supposedly had committed 1.7%. Native and Hawaiian 0.3%. Adult violent crime arrests 338,211. Whites, of course, they got the majority. 54.4%. Blacks, African Americans, 41.6%. And that's how you know too that this is a Edomite Jacob type of thing that's going on the planet, because most things are measured by so-called blacks and so-called whites. Right? It says interpretation. While whites accounted for a higher number of arrests overall, this primarily reflects their larger share of the U.S. population. So why do they be lying about, you know what I'm saying, Jake committing all the damn crimes? Okay, proportionately, I get it, you know what I'm saying, when you're talking about, okay, you're 13% of the population, then here you go, you got this other 80 or so percent, you know, of course they're going to commit more because it's more of them. But when it comes to the types of crimes that so-called white people commit, that shit be crazy, bro. You know, Jake be doing some shit, don't get me wrong. Jake is wicked as hell. But the shit that Esau be doing, man, come on, bro. Here's the incarceration disparities, 2021. According to the Bureau of Justice, data and reported on Wikipedia, white non-Hispanics, 59% of population, 31% of incarcerated. Hispanics, 19% of population, 24% incarcerated. Black Americans, 14% of population, 32% of incarcerated. This means black Americans are incarcerated at more than 5 times the rate of white Americans. Hispanic populations are also incarcerated at roughly double the rate of white Americans. Why? Because we just brought up that scripture that talks about how they're not in trouble as other men, but they're committing the most crimes. Psalm 73:5, they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. And that's a part of the curses, man. Now we will be in these prison houses, man, because we're under this man's rule, and this man has a perpetual hatred for us. He sets up systems that really fuck Jake up, man. You know. So I didn't want to keep this long. It was just, you know, something that I kind of thought of when I was reading an article. Then you got these so-called white people that be in the comment boards and they be saying all kinds of shit, and it's like, okay, you don't know your own history, you don't know that statistically y'all committing the worst shit. Okay, so I think that was yeah, they got Jake at so-called blacks at the top as far as homicide. Whites are second. And so-called, let me see, whites, including Hispanic. Okay, so, yeah, because, you know, Jake is, Judah is under that curse the worst, in a sense, you know, when it comes to the hating of thy brethren, because Esau know that he has to keep Judah in that position. So he sets Judah up like that, man. Says, putting it all together, raw arrest numbers show more white offenders, but this aligns with their population size. When you adjust for population, black Americans face disproportionately higher rates of arrest and incarceration, which reflects deeper societal inequities. This is what I'm. But who's doing that? Esau is the one that's got Jacob at a disadvantage like that, or mainly Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Don't get me wrong on that, because it's just a part of the curses, man. But the Lord uses Esau to actually do what he does to us, man. Most violent crime is committed within the same racial group, not across different groups. Okay, all right. And then this also shows you that this is a very violent place. They want to pull up on specific FBI tables, homicide offenders by race. Well, anybody with common sense would know that these so-called white people killed, ain't no telling how many, man, in the this shit could be in the billions. But we know hundreds of millions of people when they came here and killed off all the damn buffalo along with most of our people, the Gadites, man, tribe of Gad. Then, came to the west coast of Africa and grabbed our asses up, and killed millions of us. So that's the whole thing of it, you know what I'm saying? Like, and this man got a lot of blood on his hands throughout the world. I could have asked that question, like, who's bombing the most people? Matter of fact, let me do this, just for an example. I'm just going to put in, who has bombed the most people, blacks or whites? And we can go into, anything that's got to do with their medical system, their food, their water, you know what I'm saying? The sicknesses that people have, that's going around. We can actually ask that question. And it's got to tell you that it's Esau. Let's see here. Let's just ask that question. Thinking longer for a better answer. Yeah, you go for it. Because so-called black people don't have no planes to bomb nobody. We don't have no bombs. We don't have access to bombs. Or I probably should have asked more missile strikes. These people done blew up buildings and shit. Oh yeah, okay. So it's at I remember this was Timothy McVeigh, and I didn't even mean to ask it like that, but I remember this so-called white man. Matter of fact, I seen that shit on the news. They was showing it back in 1995. He killed 160 supposedly, because I remember that being like a conspiracy theorist too. You know what I'm saying? As far as could have been some CIA type of shit, but that's not how I wanted to ask it. Let me see. But definitely, as far as come on, bro. Esau is a complete terrorist, man. This damn phone's lucky. Okay, so I'm asking, who has shot more missiles and killed civilians, blacks or whites? It says that is important, but also a tricky question. To answer it well, we need to separate individual acts of violence from state military use of missiles. Well, no, you can use state military. It don't make no goddamn difference. You know, missiles are almost always fired by governments or militias, not individuals. Should I have asked what race? Here you go. Yep, by sheer numbers. White-led governments and militaries, U.S., Britain, France, Germany, Russia, etc., have launched vastly more missiles and caused far more civilian deaths than black governments have. And we ain't even talking about no black government because we don't have no black governments. When they saying black governments, they're actually talking about Hamite governments. You know, because some of them Hamites got a little ammunition. You know what I'm saying? They got armies, but we don't have no armies. This isn't about race because the cause. It's about who has had global military power, industrial weapon production, and the geopolitical reach to use missiles. Those nations have historically been majority white. There you have it. And there you go. So the summary is, if we're asking who has shot more missiles and killed more civilians, the answer is clearly white-led governments and militaries, because they have had the power, weapons, and global reach to do so. Black nations have not engaged in missile warfare or anywhere near the same scale. There you have it, man. There you have it. You know, and let me just grab this scripture too, because, you know, it's been a lot of telling on themselves as far as Esau. Psalm 64:8 says, they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. See? And ChatGPT is no more than a tool that the so-called white man created that's actually telling on them, man. And that's why I was saying about you got to kind of corner ChatGPT, because they try and make it seem like, you know, oh, well, but, and try and throw everybody in the mix. I'm asking you a simple fucking question. You know damn well the so-called white man done bombed and killed more people than anybody on this planet, man. And again, like I said, and we ain't talking about like chemical weapons and you know, Esau used anything, man, to kill your ass, man. This is his world system. He's the wicked. He is the physical counterpart of Satan on this planet, man. He's not capable of producing anything. Matter of fact, let's just say, for instance, he so-called created the car, right? Think about how many millions of people have died in car accidents because of his shit. But they'll tell you, nope, it wasn't our fault. You know what I'm saying? Had they just, you know, followed the rules. But he's not going to explain that, okay, his shit be malfunctioning. He's got all kinds of recalls. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to tell you, you know, that going a speed of 80 miles an hour with hundreds of thousands of people on a fucking freeway all doing different shit will kill your ass. He created the freeway. You know? Here you go. You got people that's on cell phones and computers all damn day long that's taking their lives. Their damn chat boxes is talking to people in the deleting themselves. We ain't gonna even talk about the cigarette factory, man, and the tobacco and you know, just a whole, his whole system is death. All the shit that he tells you that's good, he'll get to bragging to you about. Look at our technology. Look at how far we've come. We've gone to the moon, like, and all this bullshit. Like, man, everything you done put your hands on is death. Look at how many people passed away from that jump shot and shit, man, when that COV-19 jumped off. And people out here still fucked up. But he was telling you that, hey, you must take this. It's gonna make you feel better. And that's not including the shit goes so deep, man. It's this I can't wait, man, till we actually get a full scale of what the type of shit this man has really done, man. You know, praying that we're, you know, part of the hopeful elect, man. Make that kingdom, boy, and really just see. Really just see the shit that they in the backdrop pulling right now, bro. Especially for you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Because you're the ones that they really have it out for. They're the ones that, you know, when it comes to, they not going to tell you about the statistics on you know, just the poverty that they've set up to make Jake go out and do the shit that he does, man. Jake won't be fucking around and be running up on people and killing people like that, man. You know what I'm saying? If they had, you know, overall what they need. Don't get me wrong, you know, Jake wicked as hell, crime, you know, will happen, especially in a system like this. But overall, If Jake really just had what he needed, see, this man, he just systematically sets that shit up. He sets the trap, man. He's the accuser of the brethren. And so now these days, what's happening is they're being countered, you know, because, you know, hey, we're giving our evidence just like how he's trying to give his. And his evidence is being found out to be tainted while he's trying to accuse us. But when we accuse him, we're actually coming before the real true judge, which would be a so-called black, you know, a so-called black man, not this so-called white dude that he gave you when he covered the faces of the judges. You know, he can see through, okay, you lying over here. And he can see that we're actually telling the truth about this man. Ain't nobody lying on this man. The whole world is starting to see that he's fucked up, man. But anyway, just a couple of questions I asked. And, you know, hey, this is what this chat GPT is telling on their asses, man. And eventually they're going to get rid of all this stuff because it's not doing them well. They're not doing well with the internet. The internet is really on this guy's ass. So all that Trump trying to, you know, shut down the Smithsonian's and all these museums talking about slavery, that shit ain't going to work, man. Everybody already know. This is an ongoing topic, man. So, it is what it is, man. So with that, I pray that the lesson was edifying. Kwame Yasha Allah and a Bible ball.